Hello and welcome to the Time and Change Will Surely Show, where we will take one Ohio State-centric topic per show and look at the past, present, and future of that topic. And in our very first episode, we are going to go where you really have to when you're talking about football. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks, along with Juck Milletti of Juck on Bucks. I am Tony Gerdeman. Welcome to our brand new show, part of the Buckeye Insiders Network. You can find it at buckeyeinsiders.com. Right now, we've got a splash page. Sign up, put your email in there. We'll let you know when we're live later this month, perhaps, hopefully. And just so you know, this isn't replacing anything. This is just something Juck and I have been wanting to do. So here we are. Juck, what do you think?
A long time coming with this idea that I really like. We're going to talk past, present, future on one particular topic. Tony thought of this. I really like the idea, and I've been trying to get him to do it for a long time. We finally have the avenue to do it. So let's rock and roll, Tone.
First, let's start with a baseline. Who is the first Ohio State quarterback that you remember watching?
Gosh, might be Kirk Herbstreit. Maybe Mike Tomczak. Yeah.
I remember hearing about Mike Tomczak. For me, it's Jim Carsados, which would have been
Carsados.
Late 80s. And then, there's a little bit of Tom Tupa in there after Carsados. And then you get into the Kirk Herbstreit, Kent Graham, and then finally into the, I'd say the modern era of Ohio State offense with Brett Powers, Bobby Hoying, and then Joe Germaine and Stan Jackson and all of that. But we're going to talk about who our top 10 Ohio State quarterbacks of all time are, but I wanted also to have like a control. I put together a formula, and I'll show this up on the screen as I'm talking about it, but I've got a formula where it's a career passing yards, career rushing yards, touchdowns, minus interceptions, how many times you've been All Big Ten, how many times you've been All-American, how many times you've beaten Michigan. I put this all in a formula, and the number one quarterback in Ohio State history, far and away, is J.T. Barrett. And Juck, I'm going to take him behind the scenes. When I sent you this and I told you what the formula was, you said something to the effect of, it better not be JT Barrett, and boom, JT Barrett.
Not just JT Barrett, but JT is double like the average of second, third, fourth, and fifth. I mean, he's out there by a mile. And obviously we know when you look at the Ohio State quarterback records, he's way out there in a way that anybody who would just watch him play one season would never believe, right? Mm-hmm. But things add up over time, and his stuff really added up.
It did. It's remarkable. And I wonder if part of his legacy has been downgraded because Ohio State won a national championship without him. If he gets injured and Ohio State either loses to Wisconsin or whatever, they don't win at all, I think his status stays high. I think the Clemson game exposed him in 2016 because I remember covering that game, and the media availabilities leading up to that game with the Clemson defense, they were very confident Ohio State were going to be fine. They can't throw the ball. They're very they can't do this, they can't do that. And I remember looking, I think, to Patrick Murphy at Bucknuts, and we're just like, are you hearing this? And then we just go run back and write the story of how these Clemson Tigers are so cocky, they're dismissing Ohio State in this great offense. Look out. And boom, one shutout later, and there's a whole new era of the Ryan Day era basically being installed. So I want to reveal our top 10s. And I guess let's start with 10. We don't need to spend a whole bunch of time on this, but I do want us to put ourselves out there. Who is your number 10 quarterback on your top 10?
Okay, hang on. Give me a second, Tone. I got to pull up my I made a
I'll give you mine while you're doing that.
Go ahead. Pull your 10.
My number 10 is Bobby Hoying, who was the quarterback while I was at Ohio State and was the first guy to throw for over he was the first guy to throw for over 3,000 yards in a season. That was in 95, which one of the great offenses in Ohio State history with Eddie George and Terry Glenn and Ricky Dudley, and everybody knows that. But he's my number 10, and at one point he may have been the number 1 long time ago.
I was 14 years old watching Bobby Hoying in that 95 season, and to me, that was just like the best quarterback in the country. And I thought at the time, I didn't really know a ton at 14 years old. I'm like, this is the number one draft pick. He's the best, right? Like, to me, he had the size, he had it all. He's a great leader. And just browsing briefly yesterday when I was trying to put together this list, which was a chore, trying to parse, in a lot of these, I'd give the nod to who did I like more. But Hoying was one of the guys that I really like. He did not make number 10 for me. He didn't make the list, which was tough. It was a wrestling match at number 10 between Hoying and Joey G. And Joe Germaine makes it for me at number 10, a guy that I also liked a whole lot. And, Hoying being from Ohio, I almost gave him the nod, but I went with Joe.
Joe's my number 9, and frankly, it's because I think the 98 season was better than the 95 in terms of, you beat Michigan, so that's what moved me up. So I have Germaine at 9. Who do you have at 9?
At 9, I've got the greatest quarterback in Ohio State history, JT Barrett. And, when you talk about his legacy, it is complicated. I mean, he's such the epitome of a Buckeye, an out-of-state Buckeye, right? A guy who comes in, buys in, embraces everything the program's about, and then leads his teammates in a way that the coach, who's a maniacal Ohio State guy, trusts him with everything. And he did that to a T. And I think time will have him be more appreciated. But when you have a couple of years in your career where people want you benched, a lot of people, it's tough to come out of that and have a great legacy, even though he does have, he's amassed a ton of great statistics. And a lot of people would love to see him come back to Ohio State now that he's a successful coach in some capacity. But, I always remember him fondly, despite some of the frustrations.
Yeah, and I've got him higher on my list, and we'll get there. But I understand it, because when you watch the quarterbacks that came after him, you see the limitations that he had. And I could tell people, go back and watch the 2016 Michigan game, or any game from 2016, and watch the difficulty in throwing the ball and completing passes compared to what we saw after those years. And you could see those limitations. And I think that I'll be interested to see what the feedback is on you putting him at 9. I think, I don't know if people are going to like it. My 9 I gave you is Joe Germaine. My 8 is Terrelle Pryor, and he was fortunate that he got to play when Michigan was terrible, and he got to beat up on Michigan that way. But he also, as far as I remember, because I wrote about it, he was the first quarterback to ever lead his team to 3 BCS bowls in his first 3 seasons as a quarterback. Like, that was never done before. He was never a first-team All-Big Ten guy, which is also, that's a little, you fell short. He fell short of that, considering how many guys have been. Todd Beckman was a first-team All-Big Ten quarterback.
Oh, come on.
To give you an idea. He was.
I know, but what are we talking about here? We're talking about the same guys that won't ever vote the Ohio State head coach, the Big Ten coach of the year.
But, yeah. But are you still, I think, for me, you watch Terrelle Pryor, it's like, imagine what else he could do if he could just do it. But I've got him 8. Who is your 8th?
I got Dolo Dale at number 8. Cardale Jones is the 8th best quarterback in Ohio State history to me. At 8, the number of games he started, 8 games as an Ohio State Buckeye starting quarterback. 8-0, the only Ohio State quarterback who started more than 5 games and won them all. Undefeated in those 8 games, and of course the run that he had elevates him quite a bit here, because anybody else, having just played 8 games, would never touch this list. But, he came through when you absolutely needed him most, and created one of the best stories in Ohio State history. And though the time was brief and the 2015 season didn't go the way we would have wanted it to go, he definitely left an imprint.
Yeah, I don't have him on my list, but I can appreciate that. It's not unlike the Rams quarterback, the greatest show on turf. Name is slipping me right now, but he could have been a Hall of Famer just after like 4 or 5 seasons of playing in that offense. But I know he's going to be on there for a lot of guys based on the way he, as you said, he never lost a start, but he did lose his job.
He did.
So that's something that I have difficulty with. But again, there's going to be people who put him under there. There are people who put Craig Krenzel on this list.
I've seen Craig Krenzel 1 on somebody's list recently.
Yeah. So I saw that as well. And I guess it's kind of like the music you grew up listening to is the best music. I know the best music in the world is the stuff that I grew up listening to, and like in high school and college, nothing is better. Nobody has any better taste than that. And I think it's the same way for some people with Craig Krenzel, because if that 2002 team was your formative years, there's nothing that could happen that would, remove him. 7 for me, and I'll be interested in your thoughts on this, is Will Howard, because Will Howard did everything that you needed in his one season. I don't think anybody expected him to be nearly as good, but he was everything the offense needed. He was everything the team needed. He got better as the season went on. And he was also pretty darn good right out of the gate. I think he had 8 games of 80% completion percentage, which that was that broke the career record at Ohio State. So I think he's underrated in this. And I'm also in the process of trying to put together like Ryan Day's all-time best quarterbacks, and he's got to factor in somewhere, but I've got him at 7.
So when I judged Howard on this list, I'm trying to think in my head here. Let's pretend that this is a guy who just was on the bench for his freshman, sophomore year, and then his third year, he started that one season and left. Dwayne Haskins. Let's put him in that same category and pretend like he wasn't a guy that transferred in just for 1 year, because to me, it almost makes me feel different when it's a guy who comes in 1 year and that doesn't really, he's a guy we followed through recruiting and up the pipeline. It's the first time we've ever dealt with this. So to me, the legacy feels different. So I had to kind of pinpoint and say, look, pretend he's been on the team. Now just look at that season now and judge it. And when I did that, I actually have him a spot higher. I have him 6, Tony, because I think that it was just an unbelievable season, and a guy that coming into that year, he improved so much from what he had been before. And again, that to me was maybe one of the bigger things that we've ever seen that really shows how good Ryan Day is with quarterbacks, was the Will Howard improvement from what he was, which was not an accurate passer, to coming into Ohio State, and all of a sudden this dude is setting the record for the most 80% completion percentage games in Ohio State history. And his deep ball improved. I mean, everything about him improved except for his running, which, unbelievably, you did that piece. I think you rushed for 230 yards on the year. And that is something that I thought we'd see a lot more of. We didn't need to. It was just the right amount for the national champion, Will Howard.
I can't fault that one. And when they did need him to run in a couple of games, was it Texas? One of those games he had more carries than anybody else. Like he had 16 carries or whatever. And it's just, it reminded me of the JT Barrett days of, we're just going to run him and pick up as many first downs as we can to just keep these chains moving, which then takes me to my number 5, which is JT Barrett.
Wait, I didn't get my 7 in yet. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
7, I got Braxton Miller at number 7.
Oh, wow.
Braxton is number 7 to me. A guy that, the way you look at Terrelle Pryor, I don't know, man. I just feel that I'm missing something with Pryor, or with Braxton as a quarterback. Obviously love him as an athlete, but I got those two flopped in my mind. And this is where I fall on Brax as a quarterback. Obviously he did some great things and was basically a one-man band when he was a freshman, but it was always just lacking a little bit to me in the passing game. And moving out to wide receiver a little earlier would have been awesome with a real quarterback.
He was my 6. Yeah. So he's my next quarterback on this list. And watching him as a freshman, you can see how raw he was. I remember watching him. This would have been some sort of quarterback camp. I don't know if it was ESPN or something. There was some long throw competition for the quarterbacks, and he thumbed it and helicoptered it. And I was like, well, that's a concern. But he was one of the guys that when you watched him, at any, like you couldn't take your eyes off of him. And that had nothing really to do with the throwing. It's just everything else that he could do. And he was the perfect guy for Urban Meyer in that offense. And it was fun to watch. But yes, he also had his limitations. And, you think about that 2013 Michigan game, if you just a little bit missed DeVere Posey by a little bit in that game. He was incredible to watch. He's one of the guys that if we put a top 10 most incredible players to watch, he may be higher on this list.
Yeah.
But he's my number 6 guy. And your 6 is Howard. So we'll go to my number 5 guy, JT Barrett, who if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would be like a top 3 or 4 rusher in Ohio State history.
Bananas.
And by far the top passer. He already is the top passer in Ohio State history. I think he's got more like 60 more touchdowns than anybody else on this list in terms of accounted for. And that's the longevity of not good enough to go to the NFL can certainly really good enough to play college, but not good enough to go early. Certainly helps you here in amassing those numbers. He's my number 5, and I know he's not your number 5. So
you bring up something interesting there, Tone. That good enough to be a good college football player, not good enough to go to the league. Now that we got this 5 for 5 coming in, we might see some more of that, which will help Ohio State be even more veteran and have good guys that stick around. And I think that's going to help out quite a bit in some areas with certain specific guys. I don't know. You could probably pinpoint a couple of guys, and maybe that's another show that might not be good enough to get that first top second round. Or
what would JT Barrett command and say he was allowed to come back in 2018? Ohio State's probably not interested necessarily in bringing him back when they've got Dwayne Haskins waiting in the wings, but I do wonder JT Barrett's going to make more in college than he would have in the NFL. That's for sure.
Without a doubt. With the gosh, man, it's hard. It's so hard for me, like you said, having seen the quarterbacks after him, and now to compare him throwing the ball to those guys. Like please leave. Like that's kind of how I'd feel. I'd want to go with the younger guy, which I did in fact at certain times when he was the quarterback back then. But number 5 for me is TP. I am just forever fighting the TP war. Like this is my dog. I love this dude. I don't feel like there has been a guy that has been so underrated in the laurels of Ohio State history by Ohio State fans ever than TP. He is the one guy that I always go extra hard to bat for, because I feel like so many people have a sour taste in their mouth. And here's the crazy part. The sour taste in their mouth about how he left and about Tatgate and about Tressel, and these same folks will sit here and say, give us the wins back. That's not illegal anymore. That was nonsense. Now, I totally agree. You knew the rules. You put your team at risk. You did all that, and I'm all for everybody being punished over that. But I just feel like there's this stigma that people certainly had in that first 5 years after he left, and it's just kind of lingered. A lot of that is that he never comes back around, and he can. He's not banned. But he can come back around. He doesn't. He's not interested. He's not a public face. He's not out there like a lot of these guys talking. And just an unbelievable athlete, an unbelievable runner. I was just watching him yesterday as I was putting this together. Like, let me refresh on some TP. His arm, you got the balloon balls in there. And it wasn't great. And in today's Ohio State passing game, it would be a disaster. But at the time, just a winner. At the end of the game, I want the ball in that guy's hands. And I just felt so confident back then with the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
You mentioned moving Braxton Miller to receiver. You could have Jeremiah Smith and Terrelle Pryor as your year 2 receivers, and you'd be pretty darn good. Tom and I were just on with Bill and Doug on their Around the Shoe show, and one of the topics was, will there ever be a Wemby in football? And my point was his name is Terrelle Pryor, because back in high school he was 6'5", 6'6", could play corner, could play safety, could play defensive end, quarterback, and nobody could touch him.
He was LeBron, and Tony.
And that was another name that came up. It's like these guys, there are some freaks out there, but you can't get too big or too tall or too whatever, because your tendons can't hang on to it. Your tendons can't hold up, as David Boston showed. But, Terrelle Pryor was another one who, don't take your eyes off of him. And he was fun to watch. And about the Tatgate stuff, I try to remind people, you should love this guy because he took everything he knew and left. I'm sure he could have said more. He walked out the door, and that was like, he fell on the sword and did Ohio State a solid there, in my opinion. So
I agree.
Kudos to him.
And I also want to say, to your point about Jeanette, Pennsylvania, Terrelle Pryor, quarterback, watching him at the high school level, watching him at the college level, and then watching him dominate as a Cleveland Browns wide receiver. Also still has, I think, the record for the longest quarterback touchdown run for the Raiders. Like, when you look at the totality of that, this is one of the great athletes of our time. Point blank, period.
Yep. No, I would agree with that. My number 4, and we start getting into some of the Ryan Day quarterbacks, Dwayne Haskins, for the greatest season we'd ever seen from an Ohio State quarterback. And a lot of that was because there was also a bad defense, and he had a ton of talented receivers, and they sped the offense up. He got to play 80 snaps a game,
Crazy.
which it was a lot of fun to watch, but also they needed all 50 of those points in order to get some of those wins. He is my number 4 quarterback.
At number 4 for me, I have, out of Maryland, lifelong Buckeye fan, Dwayne Haskins, number 7, but number 4 in your heart. And yeah, man, I was a big fan of Dwayne, and I certainly love watching those offenses. That is one hell of an arm. That's a guy going to the NFL I thought was going to light the league on fire right off the rip. But rip Dwayne Haskins, man, one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely, definitely. My number 3 is a surprise to me as I was putting together this list, and I went with C.J. Stroud, who I think I have gone back and forth of having him number 1 based on the fact that he's the best passing quarterback I've ever seen at Ohio State. And I'm wondering if, am I punishing him for not beating Michigan, but also there were some shenanigans going on there as well. Am I punishing him because you've got these NFL people now in my brain that are saying, well, I'm not sure if he can play. It's like, I'm pretty sure he can play. Just get him an offensive line and he'll be okay. But also going back and reliving some of the 2006 season with Troy Smith's career. That's why I'm surprised I have Troy Smith in my top 2 somewhere. I was not expecting to have him above CJ Stroud, but after going through this and thinking about it, I have Stroud at 3.
This is really interesting, Tony, as I also wrestled with these same exact thoughts. I also have CJ Stroud at number 3. CJ, obviously he's got it all. And when you get up to this level, it's not so much for me about what you got. It's about where can I nitpick, right? And when I nitpick, I just feel like I can nitpick a little more on CJ, including the likability factor, man. I didn't like this dude as the Ohio State quarterback. He was, not very engaging. He was just, that guy is a great quarterback, but it was hard to just get behind him as your guy, right? It just never felt that way to me. Whereas the guys above him certainly did, and most of these guys on here was like, that was my guy. But yeah, never really felt that way with Stroud. Watching him go light the NFL on fire was fantastic. I don't know what's happened now. My son's been a Texans fan since he was a little kid. Don't ask me why. Tried to raise him a Browns fan, wouldn't work. Picked the Texans. And then he gets Stroud. So we got Stroud stuff everywhere. And he keeps me up to date on him in his NFL career and all the comings and goings with Houston Texans news. And I'm just amazed that this dude was so good, and now all of a sudden seems like everything's falling apart. But boy, how wrong I was about him when he was at Ohio State, personality-wise, since when he's left. I thought this guy's just kind of a crappy leader. And then really when you see him now that you get more footage, you realize what kind of leader he is. Like the guys in the bubble, they love him. I mean, he's great with them. and he's better on the outward style as well now too.
And that Georgia game showed everything that he could do.
Gosh,
and I think
man, it's hard to get
that
out of your
Georgia
mind.
game, right. But, and it's also, I think there's a lot of, why didn't you do more of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling people at the time, he doesn't need to run because he feels like he can just, his arm is fine enough. And, he just needs to find somebody open for 7 or 8 yards and he trusts his arm more. But then you see that Georgia game and, maybe I dropped him to 3 because he made me look like an idiot, made me look like I was wrong. Maybe I'd taken this personally, but so number 2 for me, and I did not expect this, is Troy Smith, because when you just go and he's the only Heisman winner on this. He is only, him and Art Schlichter are the only All-Americans in that list of 22. And as a, well, I guess it would be a redshirt sophomore in 2004 when he started against Michigan, 241 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 145 yards rushing and a touchdown. In 2005, that great comeback win, threw for 300 yards. 2006, game of the century, 1 versus 2, 4 touchdowns, passing and now in 316 yards, and just fun to watch. But if you've got a game against Michigan, there's one guy you're calling, and it's Troy Smith. So he's number 2 on my list.
Troy Smith is number 2 on my list as well. Troy Smith, there's so much more that goes with Troy. The story of him getting thrown out of Ignatius, going to Glenville, like the whole story, and coming in and returning kicks, which I think, most people, if you pull it up right now, man, go to Troy Smith's highlights. Colton Denning has one. Dubsco, you guys know Colton Denning. Guy's awesome. And he's got loaded up all the Troy Smith kick returns in his ultimate highlight package. And it's just amazing watching that and thinking back, like, hey, this kid might be something. When we're watching him, everybody's talking about this new athlete, this young guy. No, he turns out to be the number 2 quarterback on the official Tony Gerdeman and Juck all-time quarterback list, which is amazing. It's just an amazing story. It's an amazing career arc. And he and Tress kind of cemented the dominance of that run and what it was going to be for years to come against Michigan in the game. And it was just so, he also felt to me always like a kid having fun, his playing style and everything about it. Like, it kind of feels like the last Ohio State quarterback that felt like, man, that's a college kid. Everybody else after him has kind of felt more like this is a guy who's developing to be an NFL pro. And Troy felt like a college kid having college fun, doing dumb college things. And that's just how he felt. And I loved it. And I love him. I think he's the number 2 all time.
Yeah. He was, just go back and watch all of the highlights against Michigan. And he's one of those villains for Michigan, the way Charles Woodson is for Ohio State. He is a rivalry villain. And when you're a rivalry villain, then you stand out. My number 1 is Justin Fields, who I feel like is just, if you combined all of the best parts about all of the quarterbacks on this list, you create Justin Fields, who can do all of it. And, he got shortchanged of a second game against Michigan. He only had the 1, and he was very good in that one. But to me, he's just the perfect combination of all of these guys. He can run like Terrelle, he can throw like Stroud, and he can lead, and the toughness, like he getting beat up against Clemson, keep coming, getting beat up against Michigan, comes out and throws a dime for a touchdown to Garrett Wilson on the move. Like, there's nothing not to like. And as a Bears fan, I couldn't have been happier when the Bears drafted him, because I thought they were set for life now that they had him. But he's number 1 on my list. I'll be interested to find out who's number 1 on your list.
Yeah, I also feel Justin Fields is the all-time greatest Ohio State quarterback, which is, I totally agree. I mean, he's got all of that and all of the best parts. And I just feel like, man, it's such a what could have been career to me when I look at it. Of course, you had the COVID and the 2019, he gets robbed out of playing in a national championship. This guy could have played in 2 national championship games, really. And he never did. But when you look at every Ohio State national championship, you plug him in on that team, and they're going to win the national championship that year as well. and just pretty much had it all for a college quarterback. And boy, am I with you. Going to the NFL, I thought without a doubt, we finally got one, right? We finally got one in the league. That's what it felt like to me. And I'm still surprised that it's just still not clicking, not picking up for him. But quarterback play at the NFL level is witchcraft to me, so I don't try to figure it out anymore.
No. So let's move to the present day. Before we do that, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to the new channel, please do so. You can find it at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. Regarding Buckeye Insiders, go to BuckeyeInsiders.com right now. There's a splash page. We're still building the site. You can put your email address in there. We'll let you know when we're live. We'll be there. I'll be there. Juck will be there. Tom will be there. Ross Fulton. We got some more things coming, talking everything. Ohio State football, recruiting, X's and O's, plenty of stuff that you guys are all interested in. And moving to the present day, I want to ask you where, if this is Julian Sayin's last season at Ohio State, and I'm not convinced it's his last season in college, but if this is his last season at Ohio State, where do you think he ends up in your top 10 list? Is he going to end up in there? Does it depend on what he does against Michigan?
Okay. Absolutely. No. Even if he loses, he'll be 1-1. He'll have gotten a win, played really good in that win that included, Ryan Day said the best play of the day was his scramble. And I'm looking forward to that this year. I think that's going to be part of the game. I think it's coming. And I think he can do it. But an interesting year last year when we look at Julian Sayin. Now, not everybody was big in on him coming in to start the year. A lot of people, not a lot, but some people would have preferred to see a little more Lincoln, a little more of a bigger athlete, and kind of doubted him because of his size. This is a guy I always thought just had a different kind of special to him with his arm. His arm talent is just a little silly. And I think everybody kind of started coming around on that and like, wow, man, this guy's just a little different. And then you get to the end of the season and it almost kind of changed. A lot of people kind of falling back off of him. And I think we just saw some youth and some inexperience. But when we remember that guy when he was playing at his peak and put that in another year, in a season with Tony, it's so many opportunities, right, on the biggest stages with big time games. Like he's got opportunities to make an imprint that'll put you up high on a type of list like this. And that is a lot of it. Those opportunities in big time games, he's got them. And I think he is a dude that is poised to break Will Howard's 80% completion game record for sure. And I hope they take full advantage of him this year. But I think that, let's say they go to the playoffs and win 1 or 2 games and he kind of duplicates last year, but a little better. I think he's squarely he's over Cardale for sure on mine. That's 8, right? So yeah, definitely he can move up this list quite a bit. I think he might be able to overtake Will Howard depending on how far they get. Gosh, but I don't know about TP. Oh.
I was going to say, he can't get into your top 5 of Pryor, Haskins, Stroud, Smith, and Fields. It doesn't sound like the way you talk about Terrelle Pryor to get into this top 5. Now we can explore that. What will it take? Because one of the questions is, one of the things in my mind is, how high can he get? Say they win a national championship. And let's not forget, if they beat Indiana last year, it's pretty decent. They went into that game, the winner wins the Heisman. So that was his redshirt freshman season, Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza. If he plays like that again, he's going to have that attention. He's going to have that hype. If they win the national championship, then the only other quarterback on that list is, Cardale Jones and Will Howard. So certainly he's got to go ahead of those guys. But I mean, he's done what Troy Smith couldn't do. He's done what Justin Fields couldn't do. But, and Justin Fields only started for 2 years. He's number 1. So clearly that's enough.
If he wins a national championship, I think, thinking about that now and looking at these names, it feels really odd to me to say he would be with these guys. But that's because we haven't experienced a whole nother season of him winning and putting up those numbers, and the duration of him being the Ohio State quarterback grows. And it's going to feel weird thinking about that right now, but you're absolutely right. I mean, if he goes on to win a national championship, I mean, I think he's automatically at least third on my list. And then I would have to review further from there.
And, you know, if you look at the original, the quarterback rankings of the Time and Change quarterback index, if they win a national championship, he probably moves, I don't know, maybe to 7 ahead of Art Schlichter.
Oh, Schlichter.
But, yeah, I think he's going to be in my top 10 as well. And frankly, probably, you know, depending, I'm going to have him around 5 or 6 and maybe splitting somewhere between JT Barrett and Braxton Miller. But, you know, he's certainly a higher level thrower than those guys by a mile. And then you get into, well, is he better than Dwayne Haskins as a thrower? Because that's kind of what you're judging him by. And I guess we'll just see on how the things go, because the winning also matters as a quarterback. Do you think, let's get into the future aspect of this, because this is also
Can we just
a little bit
one
of
more, Tony, about Julian Sayin?
Yeah.
This dude in the Haskins offense,
Ooh.
right? Like it might already be like he's higher up on our list. Like he's on this list already.
And he's gotten the benefit of having Jeremiah Smith
Yeah.
and Cardale Tate. But if you give him 80 plays instead of, 65, man, yeah, because that 2018 team, like Dwayne Haskins didn't run the ball much. He ran a little bit against Maryland when they had to, but up tempo, like I'd love to see it. And this offense this season being more short pass, I think you're going to see that the completion percentage could go up. Now, the downfield passing, when you don't have Cardale, means it's probably going to go down a little bit. But, man, that would be interesting to see. Just, yeah, let's go. Let's speed it up. And that's something that he's not been able to do. I do think they can run more tempo this year, because he is more experienced and he can handle that. And he can make the checks at the line. He does know the offense.
I think he could have a lot more than they allowed him to last year, Tony, but I'm with you also, and I do believe that we're going to see some of that up tempo mixed in, and I think that's great that they're going to pick that up. I know you do too. Like that would be nice.
Yeah.
As a weapon. Never limit yourself.
Where do you think Tavien St. Clair, when it's all said and done, because we haven't seen him play, and but his potential is up there with anybody. His potential is up there with Justin Fields.
Yeah, it's up there with Fields. Yeah.
Yeah. If he just gets that opportunity and he gets, 1 or 2 seasons as a starter, because who knows if he's the 2027 quarterback situation could be either very easy or very, very difficult, depending on what happens with Julian Sayin. But if you give him 2 seasons as a starter, just based on his potential and his ability, his physical ability, and you assume the weapons around him, I would expect him to further, continue this path into the top 10 of Ryan Day's quarterbacks.
Number one, great thing that he doesn't have to do what Julian did and start year 2. He ain't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, it's pretty glaring that he's just not there yet, but you still also see everything that makes him the top 3 quarterback in the country coming out of high school. And obviously the size is, he's just a massive, massive kid. The intelligence, he's bright as hell, and clearly a hard worker, already savvy media trained. Like the dude is next level in every box you could check. Got the arm strength for downfield. He's got it all. He can move, not a super athlete, but a really good athlete. And he's just got everything, including the system and the coach that believes in him, to excel at the highest degree you can as a quarterback at Ohio State. And if he gets 2 years, I don't see any way he doesn't make it on this list. There's some accuracy issues. That's really the only knock you could say about him. Intermediate accuracy at this point. And we'll see that get better. But boy, that long ball, chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the media aspect. I mean, he's been around the Ohio State media since he was a sophomore in high school. Like, this is all he's ever known, basically, as a football player. So I don't think is going to be an issue for him. Moving to the future.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Well, about the
Sure.
future. Do you, if you were to predict now, does Julian Sayin come back? And if he does, what happens? Where are you leaning?
think this is a whole new show. But I feel like from the people that I've talked to, and they don't view Julian Sayin's height, his 6'1"ness as a thing that is going to keep him in college football. But he could absolutely make more in college football, I think, next year than he would as, say, even like the 27th pick in the first round, or if he's Ty Simpson. There's that ability to do that. Because you can make 4, 5, 6 million. Who knows what the numbers are going to be next year. But also, if you are a first round pick, you're going to get that 5th year. So you want to get that clock going so that you can get that second contract sooner. So those are all things that will have to be weighed. I assume the plan is to leave after this year, but I also know from talking to people, if it doesn't make financial sense, then it won't, then it may not happen. And if it doesn't happen, do you take, say, one more year of Julian Sayin and have the understanding or the assumption that you're not going to get any years of Tavien St. Clair at that point? I don't know. Unless they win a national championship, like if they fall short of a national championship with Julian Sayin, do you bring him back knowing, well, I guess we've kind of reached the peak and now we've also lost Jeremiah Smith? Don't you want to find out what Tavien St. Clair can do at that point?
Tony, we have had some divisive issues in the Ohio State sphere. If Julian Sayin comes back, what does the team do? And no matter what they do, man, it's going to be split right down the middle. The people who, how could you possibly let that hometown kid walk for this guy who had 2 opportunities, 2 years, didn't win your national championship, crumbled in the biggest games, assuming that's what happens. Or obviously, if he wins a national championship, everybody's, hell yeah, come back, right? But if that doesn't happen, it is going to be the biggest debate we've ever seen. It's going to be good for us here at Time and Change and on the Buckeye Insiders for sure. But I don't know what you would do. I don't know what you would do. It would be a poor spot. It would be a good spot, but it would be a terrible spot. If you're Ryan Day, I think you got a good option either way. Do you go with what's proven, but we would assume has some limitations if he's not leaving? Or do you go with the kid with the sky high ceiling that, but you're right. When you look at last transfer portal, Brendan Sorsby and, dudes were making $5 million. Darian Mensah made close to $5 million. Julian Sayin coming out this year into the transfer portal would have been one of those guys. And
for sure.
Yeah.
Multiple millions.
Yeah.
I also, if Ohio State says, Julian, we want you back, does that also tell you everything you need to know about where things are with Tavien St. Clair in terms of the way they view their development? Now, this is all speculation. This is nothing that anybody's heard concerning any concerns, but it's like if Ohio State was like, normally if you're a first rounder, they'll say, go enjoy, start your career. But if they're like, we'd love to have you back, doesn't that signal their feelings that Tavien isn't quite ready, or it would be a significant step down? And then if they do bring him back, and the 3rd game of the season in 2027 is Alabama in the shoe. If Alabama beats Ohio State with Julian Sayin as the Ohio State quarterback, you're going to have Ohio State fans saying, Alabama, take him back. Take him back with you when you leave town. Take Julian Sayin back with you. We don't
What a great call, Tony. That's why you're the best. You're absolutely right. That's the talking point if that happens, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Save that show. That's neither here nor there, which is also the name of probably a good Ohio State podcast. But let's move to the future. And there are some interesting movements going on in the future of the Ohio State quarterback position. Brady Edmunds getting ready to take an official visit to UCLA. Do you just talk about it?
Yeah,
because
man, a lot to this. Number one, Ohio State clearly does not value Brady Edmunds in a way that I don't believe that ever since Champ Mons committed to Notre Dame that they have cared one way or the other what happens with Brady. They've made it very public that they are on this pursuit for what people are calling a second quarterback. And I've said from the beginning, this won't be a 2-quarterback class. It's going to be Brady Edmunds or somebody else because Brady doesn't want a second quarterback. Brady was okay with that being Champ Mons because he was the 2028 guy they were in on, had a relationship with, and he understood. All right, got it. Doesn't understand and never was going to accept them barnstorming the country looking for someone else because the numbers don't make it so that you need that. It's the same numbers last year, this year, it's all the same. So what they've done here has made it clear that they don't value him in the way that they once did. And the only thing I can think of, Tony, is they now want to make sure that moving forward, they're bringing in guys who they can now implement the quarterback run game. Brady can't do that. But everything else, man, it's on point. So that's the only thing I can think of. And I also think that Brady would never have taken those visits in the spring to UCLA if they hadn't done this. And I don't think that he would be taking this official if the writing wasn't pretty clear on the wall. And I don't think he ends up in the class anymore. And that's okay. I don't like the way it was handled. I would have rather them just cut him loose and gone after and had a better shot at getting one of these guys without a guy committed.
It feels to me like there's no harm in signing somebody that you don't expect to start anymore. Right. If you can't find somebody with the quarterback situation as it is now, the quarterback recruiting aspect of a high school recruiting is, it's, I don't know, a tenth as important as it used to be back, 10, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, there was a time when Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley as the OC and Bob Stoops, where they didn't even have a quarterback that they recruited start for like 8 years. And Ohio State in Ryan Day's, 6 or 7 years, they've had a quarterback that they've recruited start 3 of those years with CJ Stroud twice, Kyle McCord once. And so the idea that you need to get somebody, you need to land somebody every year, or you need to land a star every other year because you can't necessarily pile them up, I don't think exists anymore. I think Tavien St. Clair was the perfect storm in terms of he's an hour away. He's a in-state kid. He's ready he's okay being patient. Yeah, you take that guy all day long. Thing is, they had 2 of those guys in the state, and you can't, with Ryan Montgomery, you got to decide which one you want. And I think now, I don't know that they ever expect Luke Fahey to start, but you need bodies. You need quarterbacks in the class. And we saw him in the spring. He can throw the ball.
Absolutely.
He's not very tall, but he can rip it. And so you find some quality that these quarterbacks have where it's like, okay, we can build on this if something happens and we need to go with this guy. That can happen. But ultimately, if you strike out in high school recruiting, Ohio State is Ohio State. Ryan Day is Ryan Day. There's going to be quarterbacks out there in the portal who will jump into the portal to play for Ohio State. So there's always going to be an opportunity to grab a veteran guy. So if they aren't able to flip Trae Taylor at this point, commit from Nebraska. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think they're going to be able to do that? Because Trae Taylor, from what I've seen, has said, as long as Nebraska doesn't give me a reason to go anywhere, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, I'll say this. His dad continually brings up Ohio State. 2 times in the last week and a half, he has been doing an interview and discussing things, and himself brought up Ohio State. Not other schools, but specifically Ohio State. The last one was just the day before the Elite 11, and he just brings up out of the blue in a quote, I got to call Billy Fessler back. He called me 3 times. Like, what is this, dude? Where's this coming from? Clearly something. I mean, there's obviously, but he's almost making it sound like Ohio State's chasing and we don't want him. I think that, and he did clearly say that Trae's made it clear from the beginning that we're not interested in going, but this guy sounds like Derek McCord, by the way. We're not interested in going somewhere that has a 2-quarterback class. So we've made that clear from the beginning. And, another reason why, if you don't want to go with Brady, if you're not locked in, let him go and go try to get somebody else because your odds are going to go up to do that. With Brady taking this official, I think that is the writing on the wall that's on its way out. And that does potentially open the door here, I think, for Trae Taylor. But boy, from everything I've seen of this dad, it doesn't feel like an Ohio State fit to me, but he's a hell of a player.
Well, and because as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, is this another David Sanders situation in terms of using Ohio State to drive up your price, and knowing that that Nebraska has paid pretty heftily for quarterbacks in the past with Dylan Raiola, and maybe they want something similar to that. Or also, I think it's absolutely fair to keep your options open as a quarterback in football, because as a high schooler or even as a college guy, you've got a ton of options, and if you don't weigh them all, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. So
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if Trey's like, I'm going to focus on Nebraska. Everybody else, go ahead and see what's out there, but I'm going to be locked in here. I do agree, though, that if they really want to make their best pitch for Trae Taylor, then there can't be another quarterback in the class that he views as being in the way, like, I'm not going to be part of a 2-quarterback class. So Ohio State at this point trying to have it both ways, and the likelihood is that they're going to have it no ways, because Trae Taylor is maybe more likely to stay at Nebraska. Brady Edmunds more likely to go to UCLA. But again, like I said, do you then just go get another 3-star, or do you figure, well, we'll just make up for it in the portal and go from there? But I think Brady Edmunds is expected to be at camps at Ohio State next week. At some point, if you're going to cut him loose, do you bring him all this way to then cut him loose after another visit? Or, that seems kind of like, I don't know, lame.
A lot of it's felt lame, Tony. I'll tell you what really felt lame was Billy Fessler goes and visits Brady like the last day that he's out traveling. And on that very day, takes it as an opportunity to also go visit Dane Weber, one of his competitors in the Elite 11. That felt really lame to me. A lot of it's felt pretty lame on their part, to be honest. And I'll admit, I really like Brady. I love the story. I'm a Buckeyes fan first and foremost, and that kid's story and how much he has wanted this for his whole life is something that really resonates with me and tons of Ohio State fans. And not just that, the way he's conducted himself since he's been committed, spearheading the class. I mean, he's everything you want, except he can't run, and you can't use him for that. So if they have adjusted what they want to do in the offense, if I'm right about that, and that's what the reason is behind this, totally understand. The way they've gone about it has been pretty lame. The way this UCLA official popped up out of the blue really quick, I wouldn't be surprised if that visit to Ohio State doesn't happen, and this moves relatively quickly.
I got to say, Bob Chesney at UCLA, I like that guy, and I'm not a recruit. So, and it wouldn't be shocking if he can lock that up saying, hey, we want you here. We're not looking for anybody else, So that is interesting. Anything else? And I saw in the 2028 and Neiman Lawrence, he's going to be announcing here in the not too distant future. Ohio State not in that group. I really liked him, what I saw last spring of him, but he's maybe 6 foot as well. When is Ohio State ever going to sign another 5-star guy?
So they are right now, I would say, the odds-on favorite, if you were to say today, for Chris Vargas, who is a 5-star in that class. But again, in just recently reviewing his film and what I'm thinking, what they want out of a quarterback now, I honestly, he feels a lot like not a very mobile guy. I mean, it certainly doesn't show up on his film that he's a fast twitch kind of runner of the football. Like Israel Abrams and a couple of these guys that they would love to have in this class, Trae Taylor, are. But he is certainly a big-time thrower of the football and a 5-star at this point. But then you also get gun-shy, right? Because at this time in Brady's cycle, he was a top 3 quarterback in the class. So, who's to say? What I do just constantly fall back on is I just kind of giggle about this anymore when it comes to quarterback recruiting. Because like you said, if there's 14 schools that need a veteran quarterback, 15 will show up in the portal. It's just the way this quarterback transfer portal market works. Mm-hmm. You're going to pay, but it's going to be there. It's not like offensive line where you're like, we can't find anybody. There's nobody to get. It's not like that at quarterback.
No, and I would also say I don't have a problem with paying for a high school quarterback recruits as much as I do, as we both agree, don't pay for the 5-star offensive tackles. And as I always say, even Paris Johnson only started at left tackle 1 year for the Buckeyes. So that's just consider that. Dane Weber, I was talking with somebody out west works at another school, and they love him. Like his ability to move, he's a leader. But again, he's 6 foot, 5'11", something like that. Not the biggest guy.
Yeah.
But he can rip it and he can run, and I think he's going to do well for somebody else.
Cal, just committed to Cal.
There you go. ACC Giants,
Yeah.
California Golden Bears. Anything else after this first edition of the Time and Change Will Surely Show? If you're watching, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Yeah, I will also say on the audio side of things, we're going to process this, and you'll be able to find it on all of your Apple Podcasts, your Spotify, all of that good stuff. It'll be where all of your podcasts are sold. We'd appreciate a 5-star rating and review as always, as we will always ask for. So anything else?
Tony, thanks so much for starting this show with me finally. It's been a long time coming. I really enjoyed it. I think the premise is a lot of fun. I would love your guys' feedback in the comments section if you could. And of course, we do need those subscriptions here on the new channel. It doesn't do anything but help you find our shows easier, and it helps us on the creator side a tremendous amount. So please, if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button.
100%. And also, if there's a show that you want us, or if there's something that you want us to talk about the past, present, and future of Ohio State, whatever the topic, like we've got other topics that we're working on, but if there's something that you'd be interested in us discussing, we would be happy to do that for you. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.